Good to go, Sean?
We are all set, Joe. Thank you. I am recording, so if folks know somebody wanted to attend but couldn't just because of timeliness, I will send out a link later.
Okay. Let's see here. We're going to go with. We're going to go to the different screen here. All right. Let's see. And just to confirm before I start going on, is my PowerPoint screen here showing?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Senior Leaders Guide to Whistleblower. This will help kind of walk us through, give us a little bit better understanding of what to expect out of the whistleblower element. I believe most of you, if not all of you, should have that as part of your ECF. Let's see here, standard, one of your elements for your performance rating for this fiscal year. And I expect that to be something, it should have been in there last year. I know some facilities didn't have it in there, but something we're pushing to make sure that is included in there, as I believe it's a national standard now. Let's see. All right, so this slide here represents the number of, I guess, whistleblower complaints that have been filed against the VA and other federal agencies. Back in the fiscal year 2015. This is the most recent information we've been provided. I would like to imagine there's got to be something more recent out there, but as of today's date, this is just the most recent information I have. This is also from an OGC presentation provided to us. As you'll see on here, Department of Veterans Affairs on the far left somehow has the pleasure of being way up here in the 2000 range. Other facilities, not quite as much. The Department of Defense, the second one on there at 1,300 roughly, is the largest agency in terms of civilian employees, and employees around 700,000. VA is the second largest. This does not constitute that the VA was found guilty of all of those, but just that the most have been filed. Common perceptions is that whistleblowing is equal to ratting out the agency or a colleague, or selling out your agency or colleague. This behavior is frowned upon as it can lead to conflicts or hurts employee and agency morale to report this type of stuff. There are positives regarding whistleblower in terms of how it helps out the agency and its employees and morale. We'll touch on that, and I believe it's going to be on the next slide. Here we go. Whistleblower disclosures help expose fraud, waste, abuse, mismanagement, threats to public health and safety. Whistleblowers can help save billions and even human lives. Employees who blow the whistle often do it at a great cost to their careers and personal lives. As you can imagine, and many of you have already probably gone through in some way, shape, or form, you get that feeling that if you speak up and say something regarding the way things are done that's been decided upon by management, or that's been instructed of you, sometimes you get that little weird feeling that you're going to be viewed as an enemy of your superior or your management team. But when all you're trying to do in reality is just make sure that things are being done safely, correctly, and making sure that it's for the better good of the agency and your job. So what is a whistleblower? A whistleblower is someone who makes a protected disclosure or engages in a protected activity. Those are items that we will get to in the coming slides. Doesn't require any manner of formal process or third-party designation. It can be reported to a wide variety of individuals, including yourself, HR. Again, that's something we'll get to in a moment, as I know the list is quite extensive. These are the different areas that people can file a whistleblower about. Violation of law, rule, or regulation, gross mismanagement, gross waste of funds, an abuse of authority, substantial danger or specific danger to public health or safety, or censorship related to research, analysis, or technical information. The most that you typically run into would be the first four for the most part, especially with what we do. An employee can also disclose acts of retaliation. If an employee may tell his second line supervisor that his first line supervisor retaliated against him for making a protected disclosure. That's part of it. Items such as gross management means a substantial risk or significant impact on a mission. Let's see here. Gross waste of funds includes more debatable expenditures in terms of, obviously money being wasted purposefully. Obviously everyone makes a decision from time to time about where money can be spent that maybe that's not the best idea, but more for a purposeful waste of money or money being spent knowingly incorrect. As mentioned just a few minutes ago, the screen here, disclosures can be made to a wide variety of offices or individuals. Certain laws require disclosures only to be made to OIG or OSC. Disclosures on censorship related to research, analysis, or technical information must be directed to OIG or OSC or another person designated by the VA secretary. But for the most part, as you see here, you're not going to see people generally make disclosures to the White House. Is it going to happen? It very well could. I know that I've heard on the occasion, maybe 2 or 3 times a year where it sounds like someone has reached out to the White House to make some sort of complaint against a facility or leadership. But members of Congress, same thing for the most part, same level as the White House. Harder to get a hold of and probably a less chance of having some sort of communication back. But some people still go that height. Office of Special Counsel, Office of the Inspector General, Secretary of VA, any management official. Welcome to the meeting. This is us. The media, yourself, already talked about that. HR is on there as well. We're just as guilty to be a part of the solution if someone were to come to us and file a complaint. Protected disclosures. As long as the whistleblower reasonably believes that it is true, it is protected. They can't just say, I reasonably believe, and that's it. And that's all they're going to have to prove to the investigating agency. But they're going to have to back that up in some fashion. Reasonable belief, the director is taking a government vehicle home and using it over the weekend, when in reality, the director just bought a used GSA fleet car that looks exactly the same as one of the Govs. So that's their belief, that's their thought, that's their perception of what's going on. Not true, but kind of sort of can make sense to an individual. Hey, this is the same vehicle that we use for the Gov or for a government vehicle. And all of a sudden the medical center director is driving one and is using it during their free time. Reasonable person might believe that that's true. Let's see here. Protected disclosures. It doesn't matter if the employee reports or complains about one of the below was already disclosed to you or somebody else, was disclosed while off duty, was disclosed because it was required by the normal duties of the employee's job. The employee is still a whistleblower. They're still trying to report wrongdoing to make sure it gets corrected. Information disclosed does not have to be accurate to be protected. Mind you, from the previous slide, it just has to be a reasonable belief. The whistleblower has to have a reasonable belief that the information shows some sort of wrongdoing. Disclosure does not lose protection because disclosure was made while off duty, or if it was already reported by somebody else. It adds you right to the mix. It's still a valid concern that somebody's reporting to make sure it gets investigated and looked into. Protected disclosures. Employees are not required to report problems or make complaints through the chain of command. as previously stated at the start of this presentation, some staff are very, very cautious about wanting to get their own management involved with complaints against themselves as management. As an employee, some may think you're gonna put an immediate target on your back. And that also it's probably not gonna get investigated because that supervisor doesn't want to lead to an investigation about themselves that could lead to their own punishment or removal. So, as an employee, this allows employees alternate options to go report these issues to. If you hear yourself saying the words chain of command, you may be in whistleblower territory yourself, retaliation territory yourself. Protected activities. An employee may also be as a whistleblower if he or she files a grievance, appeal, or other complaint, testifies or otherwise helps or someone else file a grievance, appeal, or complaint, cooperates with or makes a complaint to OSC or OIG, or refuses to obey an illegal order. The gritty part to this, how as a supervisor do you stay out of trouble? So you know that somebody has filed a complaint against you, or you believe that it's coming down the pipeline. How do you make sure you're safe? How do you make sure that you yourself aren't going to put yourself in hot water? Just try to stay away in terms of not to take, direct others to take, recommend, or approve. Essentially trying to remove yourself as much as possible from any type of personnel action against the employee for disclosing that information, which the employee or applicant, as we said before, reasonably believes is true. It touched on these before, violation of any law, rule, or regulation, gross mismanagement, gross waste of funds, abuse of authority, or substantial and specific danger to public health or safety. Retaliation for exercising lawful rights. You may not direct others to take, recommend, or approve a personnel action against an employee or applicant because of exercising an appeal, complaint, or grievance right. We just touched on this, I think 2 slides ago. Same type of concept. If you know that somebody has been a part of a whistleblower complaint, stay away from it. Try to do your best. I understand as supervisors, you all have jobs to do. You all have expectations to meet. You all work for the facility to reach a goal. If you believe that you're going to be in hot water or that this type of situation has occurred, you still have to do your job as a supervisor to assign work and keep things orderly and move forward. But just be mindful in terms of making sure that, okay, you've got 3 employees and, employee D is the one that may have reported this. So you're giving employee A, B, and C the easier work, and employee D is somehow going to come out with all the grunt work. Just to be mindful of it. This is what HR is here for. This is why your own leadership is here for as well. To help guide you through this, to help recommend what a smoother action is to take. Our attorney's office of general counsel, this came from them. They've also been very, very open to assist with these types of problems as well. Each facility, throughout the business has their own relationship with Office of General Counsel. Albany is very, very close to their representative from the Office of General Counsel. I believe her name is Tina Mueller. Continual conversation with her regarding different items at the facilities. Other medical centers within VISN 2, not so much. That's perfectly fine. But to not hesitate, if you fear that this is something coming down the road, you just want to be as cautious as possible to just work with your resources to make sure that you're keeping yourself and the agency out of harm's way. Note about personnel actions. Within the context of the whistleblower retaliation, the term personnel action covers not only traditional personnel actions we are familiar with, such as discipline, performance, promotions, pay. I hate having to read all the slides. But also includes counseling, changes in responsibility, change in working conditions. My example just a moment ago regarding giving all the employees in your unit the easier work, and then somehow giving the one employee who reported this, the grunt work, anything. You know, if it's going to create a picture that you did something more negative to this one individual who filed a whistleblower complaint against their coworkers, it's going to not show positive on your side. Again, though, work with HR, work with your own management, work with Office of General Counsel. We're going to do our best to make sure that we do things the correct way and get you taken care of and the facility taken care of. Good example of this, you know, classic move. If someone makes a complaint and they go from an office there on the left, all of a sudden an office there on the right, which to me, the office there on the right looks like probably most of our offices. I know it looks like what my office was. You know, it's enough for someone to file and show, okay, here's, you know, picture A of before whistleblower, here's picture B post whistleblower. Do you see the difference? Yep. Okay, well, this is a problem. Non-disclosure agreements without certain language. In the few years we've been doing this, we have not ran into very many of these non-disclosure agreements. Nothing to worry about, nothing to keep you up late at night about. If something were to become a non-disclosure agreement, it's going to come through us in HR and Office of General Counsel, because we'll always guide through them, especially when stuff comes down into writing, especially when it relates to whistleblower or something more severe. This provision should be incorporated in any settlement agreement that includes non-disclosure provisions. This is an agreement that limits the employee's ability to discuss the terms of an agreement. Again, few and far between. Very, very few and far between. Not going to see this very often. Might you see it once or twice if you work for the VA in this type of position for a 30-year span? Maybe, but again, few and far between. Nothing to worry about. HR will advise you through this. Knowledge check for us. Dr. Neal is a lead researcher of the causes of veteran suicide. One day, the chief of staff learns that Dr. Neal filed a complaint with OIG about the safety of research participants. A few days later, the chief of staff emails the chief of research, and they both agree they cannot trust Dr. Neal anymore. A few weeks later, the chief of research tells the chief of staff that Dr. Neal often seems depressed, and she believes that he should no longer lead a suicide research project. Chief of staff agrees. Next day, Dr. Neal is transferred to another research project. So we have somebody who filed a whistleblower complaint, and shortly after that, there's a change in their working condition. Seems like that creates a problem, correct? You know, I understand that the management feels like they have their own excuse to make this, but from an outside individual, could it look like looking at the math equation of this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, of a type of retaliation regarding their work assignment? Absolutely. All right. Circling back to what we discussed regarding what the whistleblower actually has to approve on their end, it's not just ringing the bell and saying, oh, my management or my facility just did this or is doing this. Okay, well, that's fine and dandy. We appreciate the initial complaint, but we need to back this up. We need to, if you think that this is true, what do you have that you believe that this is true regarding? An employee filing a whistleblower retaliation complaint must show the following. He or she engaged in activity that he or she reasonably believed to be a protected disclosure. The employer knew about the protected disclosure and the identity of the employee making the disclosure. Because they'll ask that. They'll ask the supervisor, you know, we'll say it was a disciplinary action, or we'll say it was a change in working conditions. You know, it was filed from your employee that you did X. When did you do that? When did you make this change? when were you made aware that this was filed against yourself? They'll try to put that in a timeline. The employer took, failed to take, threatened to take, or influenced an official to take a personnel action against the employee. And the protected disclosure was a contributing factor in the personnel action. So again, it's not just they take someone's word for it and that's it, end of story. They win. They need to validate with the employee background information. What the VA has to prove. Retaliatory motives may exist even in the proposing or deciding official are outside the chain of command when the disclosure casts an agency into a critical light. So the bigger the disclosure, the bigger the effect of who all might be a part of the effective chain in terms of affecting the employee. This can be your standard, peon of an employee makes a larger scale complaint. Say there's a proposed removal against such employee. Well, the medical center director is, a part of that deciding official, and they also are greatly affected by a complaint, a larger scale complaint that affects the agency or that affects the facility. Okay, well, now we have to hit the pause button. We have to slow things down. We have to make sure that everything's being done correctly before an outside person, even though they are affected by this, does anything to affect the employee. If all the previous elements are met, VA then has to show by clear and convincing evidence that it would have taken the same action without the disclosure. Clear and convincing evidence. Strength of the evidence to support the personnel action, existence and strength of a motive to retaliate, treatment of similar employees who are not whistleblowers. Going back to the picture that we had just shown regarding the two sets of offices, the one that from my experience looks like the medical center director's office versus the other, which looks like what I would assume most of our offices look like. If you're moving all of your employees into offices and all 4 employees go into an office that look the same as what the picture on the right was, okay, well, employee D doesn't have room to complain, just as long as the other employees were treated the same. Clear and convincing evidence in the 75% where it says on here, compared to disciplinary actions, which only require preponderance of evidence. So it does create a higher burden of proof on the agency side to meet this. That's something we'll end up having to work through with Office of General Counsel through. Again, we'll work through them for most of this stuff anyway. They are very involved when there is a whistleblower complaint. Anytime that one is filed and it's being researched, generally our notification will come from the Office of General Counsel. Office of Whistleblower Protection will generally go through them and contact both of us after communication has been made through Office of General Counsel to kind of put a halt to everything, or at least make us aware of the filing for whistleblower. Factors that are considered during this, the timing between the disclosure and the personnel action. If it's, obviously, you see the filing and then 2-3 weeks later, you see the action, then it's going to look fairly confusing in terms of, is this true? Is the facility doing something, or is that supervisor doing something? Because obviously something negative happened to them. So now in a short period of time, we're now seeing a negative action on that employee. Same thing in terms of if it happens, maybe the negative type of action occurred beforehand, before the complaint happened. It doesn't look as bad because maybe the management official wasn't aware at that point in time. Let's see here, substandard investigation into whistleblowers' alleged wrongdoing. We have to take this seriously. We have to look into to make sure that this type of stuff was looked at seriously. It was given serious consideration. We've tried to overturn as many rocks as possible to make sure that within a reasonable limit and ability that, we did our best to make sure that it was researched. We did our best to make sure that there was no wrongdoing done and that everything was done as it needs to be. Corrective action. If VA is unable to meet the clear and convincing evidence burden, then the retaliation occurred and correction action is warranted. Corrective action includes placing the employee back into the position had retaliation not occurred. Again, that's going to piggyback into working conditions, what their typical assignments and duties are, higher performance ratings, restoring leave, that type of work, or that type of action. Corrective action may include medical fees, attorney fees, disciplinary action against the retaliator. All of this, again, is going to go through OGC, HR, etc. That's all going to be, it's not going to be handled by yourself. Or your immediate supervisor is going to come through us, and we're going to go through Office of General Counsel to make sure that everything gets taken care of based on what's requested or what comes down the pipeline from the investigation. Advice for managers and supervisors: don't ignore employees' reports of wrongdoing. Investigate the matter and report it to your own supervisor or leadership, as well as HR. Again, for Albany, I know that Albany works closely with the Office of General Counsel. Tina Mueller has been the one that has been, I think, the point of contact for the Albany facility. I would recommend not going to her yourself right off the bat. Maybe reach out to HR, maybe reach out to your own leadership, and just kind of start that conversation of things. If the complaint is about you, remove yourself from it. Bring it up to your own leadership. Let them handle what they need to handle. You don't allow your own employees, if you're doing a fact finding on one of your employees for something, you don't allow them to just submit their own fact finding. Yeah, they can have a say in it once the fact finding is being taken care of, but you don't have them run their own investigation. Remind your staff that you will not retaliate against them for making a protected disclosure. I know that I believe it's part of the VISN mandate and national mandate that there's going to be whistleblower training for all employees, not just supervisors and managers. So that way employees understand what their rights are, where they can go to file their complaints, everything such as that. If it is about you, don't take it personally. It's supposed to be more of a professional complaint. I understand that it feels like it's personal. You add in the emotional side of things, I'm sure I would take it personal, but you just have to take that breath, take that step back, put the situation in the correct hands of your own leadership, and just try to back out of the situation and let whatever needs to be done need to be done. Be careful about what you say and write. Be mindful, avoid the appearance of retaliation. Again, if something gets reported to you about yourself, the longer you sit on it, the longer that you alert your own leadership to it, and the longer it takes for you to back yourself out of the situation, it's going to look more suspicious. Get it into the right hands, back yourself away. Be consistent in managing your employees. Treat them all the same. I understand that you might have some that are more willing than others to take on additional work or certain tasks, but you have to also remember that with that comes the element of employees may feeling that like, okay, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it. Okay, well, I'm kind of getting tired of my coworkers not being assigned to this type of work. I'm happy to do it, but I also don't want to do it. So if something gets filed and then that continues to occur, thankfully, obviously, once you know about it, you should, alleviate yourself from the situation, but to just try to avoid that image. Document all personnel. This is just general advice. Keep your cool. Try to, again, if you get emotional, if you're getting hot, back yourself out of the situation. Maybe bring in your own leadership. Document all personnel actions. That's generally comes through HR. So work with your HR office. We'll work with you. We'll work with OGC. We'll work with your management if we need to. Stay neutral. Again, if you feel like something's a personal attack, you got to try to find a way to keep it professional, back yourself out of the situation, get your own leadership involved, and keep yourself safe. Do hold employees accountable, including the whistleblowers. Yes, absolutely. Discipline can still happen for someone who's a whistleblower. As long as the evidence is there, they aren't free to just do whatever they want to do. you're going to have people all the time, if you, not all the time, but you could very well have employees who, oh, I see that you filed, a reprimand against me. Well, that's just because I'm a whistleblower. And you feel like, okay, we're got to stop the presses and everything's got to come to a halt and we can't touch this employee. Well, the investigation still has to continue and we still have to take care of what we need to take care of as a facility. Again, work with HR, work with Office of General Counsel. We'll make sure we take the right steps in the right order to address the concern of the employee and your concern as a supervisor or manager over your employee. Lastly, seek advice of HR and OGC. Last slide. Who should I contact? Again, your own management, your own leadership, HR, and Office of General Counsel. This presentation came from the Office of General Counsel, hence the last slide here for us, their representation of it. What I'm going to do is I will add this into the chat box just so everyone here can have it. I do have some other resources as well. I'll throw into the chat box as well. Sean, I don't know if I can send you some different posters and whatnot that I have, just so I can kind of maybe reach other supervisors and managers, where employees can go to report wrongdoings, who can they go talk to, the contact information for the Office of Special Counsel or the Office of the Inspector General, that type of information. If you want to just let me know when you get a chance, that'd be appreciated.
Joe, yeah, if you send it to me, I can send it out with a link too when I send this out.
Perfect. Anybody have any questions? I'm sure that I would imagine that there are. Be doing my best to get anything answered that I can, and anything that I can't answer right at this moment, I will reach back out to you and or Sean or the group and get you an answer. Not going to force it. But yeah, if you ever have anything, maybe it's not right at this moment, you don't have something, but maybe 15 minutes from now, something pops into your head, or 15 days from now, or 15 weeks from now, don't hesitate to reach out to myself, your local HR team, whoever from even your own leadership, that we can work to get on the right path of finding you an answer, to clarify anything, to make sure that you know exactly what you need to be doing to avoid putting you in any type, you or the facility, in any type of hot water. I'll throw the email group for the local HR office into the chat box just so everyone here can have it. I know some people have asked for it over the last couple of weeks when I've been in this role. Let's see here.
And Joe, it's Marlene. While you're looking for that, I see there's 23 people on the call and only 18 people hit the attendance link. So if you haven't hit the attendance link in the chat box, can you do so, please, so we can track it in TMS?
Thank you very much. So I'm going to throw this into the chat box, the email group here in just a moment. Other than that, that's all I had. If you log off before I throw this email group into the chat box, you should still be able to see it in your communication or in the active chat. Other than that, I'm all set. I appreciate everyone's attendance on this. I know it was short notice, but again, I appreciate everyone's willingness to be able to hop in on this in a short heads up.
Thank you, Joe.